In an alternate timeline, the games, Omori and Undertale, were fused together into one game. This game is called Immortal Boy.
Welcome gamers, after famous influencer and game developer Danny DeVito died, I've decided to come back, give my channel a makeup, and smash my keyboard once again, just like how you should.
Smash the subscribe button.
Now, what's on today's menu, you may ask? 2 words, Omori and Undertale. The former created by a cat, and the latter created by Tobey Maguire. Both are turn-based RPGs set in fantasy worlds with a lot of rich storytelling and interesting mechanics. But what separates these two the most is the combat system. Omori follows a more traditional Earthbound-like combat system where multiple characters are part of your team. Player fights, enemy fights, player slaps the shit out of the enemy, player wins. Whereas in Undertale, you can only have one character, and the enemy turn involves a bullet hell gameplay aspect to it. So what if we combine the party system in Omori with the bullet hell gameplay of Undertale? Oh look, the title of the video is not clickbait, so remove your cursor from the unsubscribe button right now. Now, to get the ball rolling, I created a quick character sprite using Pisco. Now this guy is a character I made a long time ago. His name is Ian. Keep that in mind, he's important. Now, after a few questionable designs, I realized I'm not very experienced in drawing. In fact, I can't really draw at all. So, with little hope left, I did the one thing any sensible person would do.
I must consult with
ChatGPT.
My good friend gave me advice on how to use a little app called Sprite, which is paid. I played around with making some tile maps in Sprite, and as you can see here, I tried designing a wooden cabin by simply dropping some wooden tiles onto the screen. The art is easily the hardest part for me because I mostly work with 3D, and downgrading by one dimension just is not really my thing. And I quickly became really irritated by the way sprites work in Unity. I really don't know, it's just a feeling I get when I have to constantly click back and forth between Sprite and Unity like I'm playing 50-20 mode in FNAF. So instead of fully reverting back to 3D, I've decided to mix both 2D and 3D into something called 2.5D, which is a lot less complex than it sounds because you pretty much just throw a sprite into a 3D space and then voila. Now, a lot of indie games, just like Omori, focus a lot on the aesthetic. I mean, just look at the colors. I had a lot of difficulty settling on a specific aesthetic. I didn't want to follow too much of Undertale's more pixelated and simple art style because Tobey Maguire wouldn't be very happy. I also didn't really want to follow too much of Omori's cute purple and blue. But there really didn't seem to be that many options when it came to an RPG game. However, there was one that caught my eye. Webcore is a really bizarre aesthetic. Incorporating a lot of UI elements from Windows 98, it mixes clunky animations, jarring website designs, and pixel art. On paper, all these elements don't really fit together, but that's what makes it so unique. It's abstract, dreamlike, and playful chaos. Now, how do we go about implementing this? The f*** you looking at me for? I don't know. Well, since I don't know, I can only do one thing.
I must consult with
ChatGPT.
Creating Webcore is actually a lot simpler than I imagined. It is essentially trying to replicate the Windows 98 window frame and putting a few colors to it as well as colorful sprites. I tested this out by creating the main menu to replicate an old Windows 98 desktop as well as using the Windows 98 frame to create a dialogue system. I'm quite proud of it actually, and hopefully it can bring some nostalgia to some people when they play it themselves. Now, I've talked a lot about the 2D stuff, but what about the 3D? For the past 800 years, I've been trapped under the shadow of Blender, so I wanted to try different software to Blender. But I don't know where to find these softwares, so that leaves me only one choice.
I must consult with
ChatGPT.
The first software I tried was Magica Voxel, which is specialized to have voxel modeling. Now, although it looks kind of cool, I really didn't like the workflow of Magic of Voxel because it was way too time consuming and the file organization is a little bit weird. So I had to move on to option 2. Option 2 was Goxel, which is also another 3D voxel modeling software. But once again, I found that the workflow just doesn't feel good. That leaves me with option 3, which is Blender. This is the very first aspect of Immortal Boy that I worked on. Mixing a story with a game can be a really big challenge because it can either enhance the experience or limit the gameplay. I really wanted to get the story right here, so I went through 5 entire drafts of the story to try to come up with the best one. I played around with the idea of a boy who was immortal, and he lived in a dream sequence where he was constantly reliving the days of his past. While in reality, he's actually floating in the emptiness of space, billions of years into the future, where all of his family, friends, and loved ones cease to exist. I wanted this game to have a similar vibe to the game Yume Nikki, where every object, room, and character symbolizes a traumatic experience that the main character went through. However, I found that this concept was very difficult to integrate into a turn-based RPG, since there wasn't really that much potential for enemies. So instead, I flipped the entire narrative and decided to focus instead on a more relatable topic. I can't really reveal a big portion of the plot because spoilers, and this is what I ultimately decided on. So essentially, you play as a boy who tags along with his 3 friends to race against creatures, monsters, and other people across the world to find a magical object known as the Heart of Desire, which is able to grant anyone their deepest desire, which, I don't know, sounds familiar? Now naturally, the first step would be to create the characters and their designs, but I don't know how to create characters, so
I must consult with
ChatGPT.
after politely asking ChatGPT for references, I used Sprite to create characters and their simple animation cycles. And right after that, I created 3D models based on the designs that ChatGPT gave me. However, it pretty much looked nothing like what ChatGPT gave me. So you can delete your paragraph in the comment section about how I'm unoriginal, you disgusting internet degenerate. Something I really enjoyed making was the hair movement, because I knew I was going to reuse the choppy animation style that I used in my other game, COLOURBLIND, which you should download by the way. It's completely free on Steam. There's just something about the way the hair moves, especially in low poly games, that makes it fun to look at. In the meantime, I created some animations for each character's idle animation, which is much better than whatever this is. It's like he's doing that staircase glitch from Mario 64. Now, you might be wondering why I'm making 3D models when I already have 2D character sprites. The idea was to have the regular gameplay in 2.5D, whereas the battles would be entirely 3D. I wanted a very distinct low poly look to the battle system, as well as still using the webcore aesthetic. The player turn would be similar to Omori. 4 party members can either attack the enemy, defend themselves, use items, or use special abilities. Once the player turn is over, it jumps over to the enemy turn, which will be similar to Undertale's enemy turn, using bullet hell gameplay. But instead of 2-dimensional movement like in Undertale, it would have 3D, where you can move back and forth, left and right, and you can jump to avoid incoming projectiles thrown by the enemy. Each enemy has a unique set of attacks that vary in damage and difficulty. Now you might have noticed these set of buttons, which are the action buttons for the player turn. I want to focus specifically on this action called talents. They are essentially special abilities that are unique to each party member that can heal characters, increase defense, increase attack, or give the team special power-ups. But as always, they come at a cost. Now most games here would have a currency that would be exchanged for using the special ability. However, I decided to put a twist on it. Instead of taking away that currency, it would be taking away a character's health. One character in particular, Eon. The other 3 party members, Cosette, Gyro, and Sarah, can use their talents in exchange for reducing Eon's health. There is a narrative reason behind this which I can't really say, but hopefully this gives a bit of variety to the gameplay. Currently I haven't designed any talents for any character, but I did design a skill tree that you are able to interact with and upgrade in exchange for a currency that you earn throughout the game. But currently the battle system feels a little empty and not energetic like it's supposed to be. And I think it's because of one thing. This is probably what I enjoy doing the most. The genre of chiptune and 8-bit noises really just makes it simple to make. I played around with FL Studio for quite a while, and I realized that it's not the instruments and design process that makes it hard. It's just coming up with catchy melodies and motifs that take a long time. Now, Immortal Boy is split into 8 chapters. Well, technically 11, including the prologue, chapter 0, and the epilogue. Each chapter has a unique location to it, ergo, a different style of music per chapter, depending on the setting. So far, I've designed some themes for each chapter, and some music also needs to incorporate some motifs that represent each character when they appear on the screen. Now, all that sounds kinda scary, but in reality, it's just me copying and pasting the same notes like it's an average TikTok's comment section.
We're done when I say we're done.
For example, here is the main theme of the game, which I had a whole lot of fun making. I'll be continuing to develop Immortal Boy for the rest of 2025. This is as big of a project as Colorblind, if not bigger. And I'll also be setting up a Steam store page in a few weeks, and I plan to price it at around $10. There will also be a Kickstarter campaign for the game as well in a month, though I haven't really decided on the amount, but I reckon it'll be around a few $1,000s. I'm planning for a late 2025 release because of the winter sale. But if I have to, I might delay it to early 2026 if there is some polishing to be done. There will be a new devlog every once in a while, hopefully every month or 1.5 months. So with that being said, I don't know how to end the video, so just